Hi, Tutul bhai.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sambit,
I
please
think,
let me know when I
yes.
need to start.
Yes, I think you can start.
So Kunji is here, yeah?
So we have Mitul.
Oh, so Mitul will give the presentation?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Hi, Mitul.
Hi, Deval.
Okay. So, Sambit, should we start?
Yes, over to you, Tutul bhai.
Thank you, Sambit, and thank you, distinguished panelists and audience. A very good evening or morning, based on your locations, to you all. So it is a great honor to welcome you all to this webinar on Sathi, a pathway to women's economic empowerment through financial inclusion. Actually, I want to give you a short brief about Sathi. Actually, what is it? So Sathi is an initiative from Aspire to Innovate A2I, implemented by Information and Communication Technology Divisions and UNDP Bangladesh. Basically, through Sathi initiatives, we are trying to establish a women agent network all around the country to provide financial service for the marginalized people. So currently, we have 400 plus women entrepreneurs all around the country in Bangladesh, basically who are working with us and as an entrepreneurs and providing different types of financial service as well as other government and private services to the rural people. So we are implementing this program since 2022, and we have some experience, some examples what these women entrepreneurs are currently doing and how they are impacting in the financial inclusion in the rural area, especially women. So this webinar is jointly organized by Aspire to Innovate and Microsoft Consulting. So to start with, I want to welcome you and introduce you all with our distinguished panelists for the webinar. Today we have with us Dr. Mohammad Habibur Rahman, who is currently serving as Deputy Governor in Bangladesh Bank. We have Arjun Venkat Raman, who is Program Officer Digital, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We have Aisha Salman, Financial Sector Specialist, Consultative Group to Assist the Poor, CGAP. We have Soyed Abdul Momen, Deputy Managing Director, Bragg Bank Limited. And also we have Shoshidhar Thumoluri, Chief Executive Officer, Sapke Impact Solutions. So today this session will be moderated by Akhan Tiwari, who is partner from Microsoft Consulting. And also at the beginning, Mr. Mitul from Microsoft Consulting will give you a presentations on findings on the research that Microsoft Consultant on our Sathi network, as well as the scope of BPI for women's financial inclusion in Bangladesh. So without further delay, so I want to request Mr. Mitul for your presentations and hope we will enjoy today's discussions and we'll learn a lot from our distinguished panelists who are basically experts from the sectors. And they will give us some guidance as well as some directions what we need to do in future to increase the women financial inclusion as well as reduce the gender gap and create an effective and innovative financial inclusion ecosystem in our country. Thank you, Mr. Mitul.
Thank you, Tutul, and thanks everyone for being part of this panel. I'm honored to present to this panel. I'll just share my screen. Please do let me know once you can see it. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Great. So as Tutul Bhai mentioned, I would try to cover two things in this presentation. Very briefly, key findings from the study, and then we'll get to the DPIs and how DPIs can help further improve financial inclusion in Bangladesh. To illustrate, I'll also use some examples from India, where some of the DPIs have been used for financial inclusion. So, so if you look at this Sathi program, as was being mentioned earlier, it's a very innovative, different program to serve the needs of women. So we analyzed this program and we found a few issues which can be further worked on in the next round of improvement in this program. So there are issues that the agents face, and there are also the issues that the users are facing on the ground. And we can broadly categorize those issues into few buckets. So for agents, the primary challenges are around unavailability of credit to expand their businesses. So they don't get easy funding to expand and grow their business. The financial literacy continues to be a challenge for them, and because of that, they also have some agency issues. Some of the women that we met were not able to run their outlets despite that being on their name. So their male counterparts were running it because of lack of skill, because of lack of competence, or other issues related to it. Uh, can others please unmute? Yeah, sure, thanks. On the user side also, there were several issues. On the user side, the predominantly challenge, as we see in most of the developing markets, was to establish identity. So the KYC was a challenge, and once the KYC is challenged, any financial service becomes a challenge. Other thing that we noticed is there is a huge demand for loans, and that too nano loans, small size loans. But unfortunately, most of the banks don't offer the small size loans, and more so, they don't even offer those through agent points. And again, as I was saying, this is not a Bangladesh specific phenomenon. This is what we see in pretty much every market. So for that, we have some recommendations as well. So one is eKYC, electronic KYC. It's very well known that eKYC can reduce the cost drastically, and when built on top of a digital identity system, which is one of the important building block of digital public infrastructure, it can reduce cost drastically. For example, in case of India, the KYC cost reduced from $15 to about 70 cents just by uh, uh, reducing the paperwork and making everything online. To improve on the literacy, there is a need to do refresher trainings. As I was saying earlier, so their financial literacy continues to be an issue, and the capacity of the agents continue to be an issue. So some sorts of training on the financial literacy, also on other areas like bookkeeping and financial management and regulation and so on, would be helpful for women to run their businesses well. And the last thing is to have loan products which help these Sathi members. Maybe some preferential rates can also be provided, as are provided in some other countries. In addition to these operational challenges, gender gaps are also there on the usage of resources. So decision making, and again, this is across the board. I think these facts are true across developed and developing markets. So that in the decision making, financial decision making, particularly, women have less agency. Even the ownership of smartphone, women have less agency, and the use of banking apps is also on the lower side. So their loan requirements are right now being met by microfinance, so which is a great institution, great form of way to access finance, but they are high cost credit. So bank loans can be low cost, and they can help them pay them off easily. On the uh, on the MFS side, and in general on the digital side, as we move things to a digital side, there are on the flip side of it. And the flip side is largely in the customer protection fraud. So the fraud and the digitization usually move hand to hand. So there are also requirement to ensure that the frauds are reduced, and there are ways to tackle those frauds. Part of it is through education and awareness. So awareness not just for Sathi members, and education not just for Sathi members, but also for customer awareness. And for customer awareness, even Sathi members can also be leveraged, and there could be specific programs through which Sathi members are incentivized and encouraged to spread customer awareness. And of course, easy resolution would also be required. Uh, Very similar point I made earlier about a customized loan product for female customers will also be very helpful. And then lastly, which is the unserved need right now, is the insurance. So insurance coverage is fairly low. So insurance can be provided through the agents, and they can also act as a collection point for premiums as they enjoy trust of local people. Now, now I'll move to the TPI part of the story. So as I was saying, a lot of these services can be, the cost of providing these services can be reduced. And DPIs can be a great way to reduce that cost. Now, interestingly, Bangladesh has taken a lot of steps to build DPIs. And we'll move to that. So if we talk about DPI, so DPI in particular, what they do. So DPIs, if you look at uh, the way they help in innovation, the way they help in reducing cost, the way they help in promoting inclusivity. So DPIs are nothing but a set of building blocks. There is no one technology which is DPI by itself. There are multiple building blocks which come together. They interoperate. They are based on open standards, and they operate within a set of rules through which competition is created. For example, if the digital ID in Bangladesh is used for eKYC, it will allow every player, whether it's government, whether it's MFS player, whether it's any other agent, to do KYC through using that digital ID. So the cost will reduce, and we'll illustrate with some numbers from India in some time. Now, Bangladesh has built or is in the process of building Bangla Stack, which is a very encouraging approach to build a DPI. And interestingly, Bangladesh is not building it in silos. So Bangladesh is taking learnings from the best in what is happened in the world. So whether it's Estonia's X Road, Singapore's Moment of Life, or India Stack. So now there are 5 layers in Bangla Stack. Of course, the bottommost and the most foundational layer is the identity layer, which will help establish identity for every citizen or every user. On top of it is a payment layer, which will allow interoperable payment across various industry players. And on top of it is a data layer. Now, this data layer is very critical because if you have to provide digital services, it's important to exchange data between various players. And when we talk about data exchange, we also talk about consent. So this data layer is very critical for everyone in the ecosystem to access data with consent and provide services. And that's how the service layer comes up on top of it. I'll just illustrate 2 layers on which there has been substantial progress. So let's talk about ID layer. So for ID layer, there is already an ID, which now has APIs for authentication, and it can be used for eKYC. There are other birth registrations number. So if it has to be provided to minors, BRN can be used and it can be extended to fulfill this need. So this is to illustrate the point that you don't have to build thing from scratch. So there are already components which are there, which are being used to provide services. Similarly, for payments, there are multiple options which are already there. There are Binimoy, Ekpay, National Payment Switch of Bangladesh, iPass. There are so many layers. So the need would be to interoperate all of them so that anyone will have unhindered access to payment services. So now let's get to the India stack. So as I was talking about Bangla stack having multiple layers, similarly, there is India stack. So as Bangla stack has 5 layers, India stack, when it was envisioned, it had 4 layers. And as you can see from this slide, it was not built in a day. It started in 2009. And over a period of time, various building blocks keep getting built. So for identity, there's Aadhaar. Aadhaar, as you know, means foundation. It's a Hindi word, so it means foundation. Aadhaar provides eKYC, e-sign. There are payments, various payment products are there. There is UPI, Unified Payment Interface. There is AEPS with the Aadhaar-enabled payment system, which is a biometric-based payment systems for people who don't have phone and who stay in remote areas. Similarly, for data layer, there are DigiLockers, which enable exchange of information. Now, what is happening is if you look at the time period from 2018 onwards, this is helping build many new platforms. Now we are getting health platforms, we are building uh, uh, commerce platforms, and so on and so forth. So innovation is happening, and a lot of players are innovating. It's not that the government is innovating or just one player is innovating. Multiple players are innovating to provide services. And we will see how it has helped in terms of numbers. So if you look at very quickly, the India stack and the Aadhaar approach enabled both private sector and government to innovate. So for private sector, what happened is the cost of providing service reduced, right? And the primarily reduction in cost was because of the cost of verification and identification going down. It went down from $15 to less than 70 cents. Now, what it enabled private sector to serve the poor and marginals. Because now earlier they had to spend $15 just to onboard the customer, and the services cost was also high. But with this India Stack approach, the onboarding cost reduced, and further the servicing cost also reduced because of innovation like APS, UPI, and so on. And our estimate suggests that the private sector has saved $44 billion so far just by adopting the DPI or using the DPI approach, which is of course sponsored by the government of India. 500 million plus new bank accounts were opened in the India's financial inclusion drive. So, which was humanly impossible. If you're talking about 500 million plus accounts using the regular paper trail, would have been impossible. Similarly, a new telecom operator called Reliance Jio launched in India, and within 3 months, they were able to onboard 100 million new customers. Now, 100 million new customers are impossible to onboard for anyone if they are using a paper-based approach for eKYC. On the other side, for private sector, the instant account activation is now possible. So earlier it used to take 2 days or so for telecom, and for bank account it used to take 14 to 30 days. Many of you on the call have been to India and witnessed this. Now you can walk into any store and get your bank account opened instantly. Just have to put your thumbprint and accounts can be opened. So, and everything is being offered by private sector as well as government sector and anyone. Similarly for the government, there is a lot of savings, but primarily through G2P. So $100 billion that the government of India spends on G2P, $50 billion or 50% of it used to be leaked, or it used to be siphoned off in between. But now most of it is reaching people. So 95% of the people are receiving food, which is through food programs. And the savings that the government has made is being redistributed among the poor. So there is evidence to show that the DPI approach works and it is low cost. It allows innovation. Now this is the last slide on this, on the cost side of this, because if DPIs have to be created, then someone has to maintain it, someone has to pay for it. So if you look at the most foundational block of DPIs in India, which is Aadhaar, government has spent about 1.8 billion, we can say $2 billion in creating this, and there is an annual recurring cost of $128 million. So it makes its own money through various services, which is 35 million, but still there is 93 million shortfall. But if you look at the 2 billion in total that the government has spent so far and the benefits, government itself has saved $30 billion, private sector has saved $44 billion, and we have not calculated the economic value it has added to the economy and the society. The efficiency gains are enormous. So now similar approach is being taken by Bangladesh. India is also innovating on top of it. Similarly, Indonesia is adopting similar approaches. Philippines is approaching. And with DPI now being a global phenomena, more than 50 countries are taking some initiative or the other on DPIs. So I'll conclude by saying that DPIs can reduce cost for female agents, and it can reduce cost for economy in general, and it can make development more inclusive. And Bangladesh is on the right track with Bangladesh Stack and many other initiatives that will follow. So with this, I'll end my presentation. Back to Samvit.
Yeah, thank you, Nikhil, for the for the wonderful examples that you showcased, and also rightly pointed out as Bangladesh is on the right track in terms of DPA. So may I now request uh, our moderator of the day, Mr. Akhand Tiwari, to take over and begin the discussion with the elite panel that we have. Over to you, Akhand. Thank you. Thanks again, Nikhil.
Great. Thanks, Samveer. Thank you, Mithul. And thank you, Tutul Bhai, for such warm introduction. I hope I am audible.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. I'll request esteemed panelists to switch on the video if you have not done that already. And I'll straight away dig in into this important and critical discussion. As we are talking about it, I can tell you that at MSC we are engaged in different projects across the globe where we are specifically working with various players, both at policy and practice level, um, to to find ways to both recruit and retain female agents. And I mean, there are innovations across the globe. Um, Bangladesh is interesting. If I include both the mobile financial service agents and agent banking agents, there are close to 1.6 million agents. But in terms of uh, and agent banking is around 22,000 agents here. Uh, the overall proportion is quite low, and in that context, um, there are immense lessons from program like Sathi to learn, and of course, there have been these lessons, and we have put them out. In today's discussion, we would try to understand from fellow panelists, which are both from Bangladesh, who have experience of working in Bangladesh, and also internationally. Are there lessons for Bangladesh from the international workspace, or perhaps there are lessons from Bangladesh which we can take away to our to other contexts and situations? So, in that in that series, I would perhaps start with the Honorable DG, uh, Mr. Habibur. So, we are aware that Bangladesh Bank has introduced a lot of new initiatives. These include right away from guarantee programs to a very specific focus on women's financial inclusion in the National Financial Inclusion Strategy. Also, you are collecting gender disaggregated data. There are new FinTechs in the country which are simplifying the payment system. Um, Perhaps in an endeavor to simplify the last mile delivery of payments, which would be critical for financial inclusion too. The gender gap in account uses has also reduced in Bangladesh. Of course, I mean, it is still high at 20%, but it has reduced. So, in this context of digitization, payment system digitization, and female agents, what can enable women to benefit from all of this? What can be done to ensure that uh, women at the last mile are also not left behind in payment system digitization? And of course, I'm hinting towards the role of female agents too. But generally, how do you see this entire digitization helping women's financial inclusion?
I don't know if I am audible to you guys. Thank
I can
you.
hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you very much. And interestingly, I congratulate the organizer, particularly Microsoft and A2I, for arranging such an important issue to be discussed in this meeting. So, initially, in order to encourage or in order to enhance financial inclusion for particularly for women, to close the gap between the men and women, you need to, first of all, you need to have basic infrastructure of the payment facilities, particularly if you call digital payment infrastructure backbone. To do that, you need to ensure interconnectivity, interoperability, also national payment suites, kind of things. So we have done it, working on it actually for quite a long period, and starting from I think 2010, these kind of initiatives is under very much active consideration. So with that, Bangladesh has implemented a lot of initiatives. To name, very recently we have our interoperable digital payment platform like Bangla QR payment Binimoy, and also we are in an action to modernize our banking system to implement electronic payment and transfer mechanism seamless and cost-effective way and time-effective way. Um, in that regard, we like to mention that mobile financial services that is operating in the country, which is bank-led in nature, has contributing significant stride towards improving the gender gap in terms of financial inclusion, because it facilitate person-to-person bill payment, merchant payments, all sorts of, they have saving products accessible to mobile financial services. Also, digital government payment benefits, salaries, pension, particularly in the garments industry. Nowadays, all of the payments are provided through their mobile accounts or their bank accounts. Bangladesh Bank has steered it, providing regulatory support, including regulatory sandbox to the fintech companies in addition to companies. One information that we used to use, which is based on FinTechs 2021, it seems to me there are a significant gap of the number. They are showing the gender gap is close to 20%. It's look a little bit actually overestimated. So there are a lot of things we don't, maybe World Bank don't know to be incorporated there. If you look at different indicators, as of December 2023, about 43% of MFS account is actually owned by the women. And if you also look at the mobile handset ownership-wise, most of the women actually are with this mobile ownership. We have history of microcredit success story in the country. So in order to enhance, or in order to actually take forward, very recently we have implemented women financial inclusion data dashboard, based on which we will be able to see what are the parameters, what are the obstacles, and what to do and how to take policy initiatives. We can take informed decision based on that parameters. And also, as a banking, the central bank initiatives, all the commercial banks, including non-bank financial institutions and telecom operators, we are actually driving our all-out efforts so that the financial inclusion drive can reach towards the rural area where most of the unbanked or unserved population segment remains. So with the initiative of agent banking, sub-branch banking, mobile financial services, plus cashless Bangladesh slogan is actually advancing to incorporate all these things. Also, government is thinking to provide affordable mobile set to the rural area so that unserved section of the Bangladesh could be incorporated in the country. So with the vision of smart Bangladesh of the government, I think with smart society, smart economy, and smart people and smart government, I think our drive to include more women in the network, in the financial services, will be a good development in the near future. We are also implementing national financial inclusion strategy, where enhancing the financial program with the banks and other non-bank and microcredit organization is noteworthy mention in this regard. I think this is how Bangladesh, including the central bank and banking system and government, is trying to increase the coverage of the financial inclusion in the women part of the population. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Habibur. I think you raised very valid and important points, including how MFS and microfinance institutions have been leading the charge at the last mile as well. I will ask Arisha, of course, I mean, there is FinTechs data, but ultimately we know that the gender gap has been reducing. In the work that you have, seen and learned about and, of course, participated, how critical are female agents to women's financial inclusion agenda? And what do you think would be some of those drivers which are particularly applicable to Bangladesh for the reduction on gender gap further?
Thanks for the question, Akhan. And I will flip the order around and first talk about some of the drivers. As you very rightly pointed, globally, the gender gap in financial inclusion has been reducing, and now it stands at about 6 percentage points. Of course, for Bangladesh and several other economies, it's higher. But despite all the progress that we've seen globally, CGAP's research suggests that in general, women's financial inclusion efforts are stopping short of enabling women's deeper engagement with the financial sector. So while accounts have been opened, like we just heard, through the digitization of wages, through programs like the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana in India, the access hasn't really led to an automatic on-ramp on wider use. And even when there is use, say through credit savings, there is growing evidence that women's experience is different, and the terms that they receive for products and service is different from those of men. So on the one hand, there is that persistent gap despite efforts in reducing it, but there are also other issues in terms of usage, in terms of quality of services that women receive, but also their overall experience with the financial system. And that brings us to the conclusion that business as usual won't be able to move the needle on women's financial inclusion. And we've looked at some of the inhibitors that are at play, and this is more general, but it can be applicable to markets like Bangladesh, where there are persistent gaps, despite all the great progress that has been made. And the first is that the financial sector is reflective of gender norms that are prevalent in the society, and these largely go unaddressed. The second is that financial services in general are not really geared towards women's economic empowerment. Even when you have women-focused products, they view women as a monolith, and as a result, there isn't customized offering for women. And finally, there are huge successful efforts, and Bangladesh has done really well in digitizing, say, wages. There are other parts of the world where there are great efforts in bringing women into the financial system. But overall, there are siloed and individual efforts that are taking place in several parts of the developing world, and they are not coming together to really move the needle on women's financial inclusion. And therefore, these gender gaps are persisting. So overall, what we recommend is that there are interventions that take place at two levels. One at the market level, where you're ushering a whole of market systems level response, but also then individually at the products and channel innovation level. And at the market level, we think there are certain levers that need to be activated to be able to usher that response. And then I'll link that to the role of agent networks. And these levers include data, creating a robust data infrastructure. And we saw that in the presentation earlier. That needs to be accompanied by enabling policies, regulations, guidelines, creating a sort of common goal between the public and private sector, driving an innovative environment that fosters inclusion, and finally, elevating a gender norms focus. So that's at the market systems level. And then at the individual level, FS needs to come together with other development actors to really drive and transform the design and delivery of products that are geared towards women. So in terms of both the first approach that I highlighted, which was at the higher level, and at the market and more at the product level, there is an important role for delivery channels, and agents are a part of that. So, of course, from an innovation perspective, but also really from a gender norms perspective. Suggests that they benefit the level, that is to other individuals, to their own houses, but also to communities. And it also suggests that if you look at contexts that have very pervasive gender norms, female agents actually are more effective in delivering financial services than male agents. In other contexts where gender norms are not as pervasive, female agents can go a long way in helping other marginalized groups, for example, the elderly, for example, people with disabilities, in accessing services. So the benefits really go beyond serving communities, but also help eventually with their own households, where their income power increases, and they serve as role models for other females to come into the system. So I'll just wrap this up by saying that female agents play a critical role in, and will continue to play a critical role, along with their male counterparts in the design, in the delivery of finance, but also in helping gender norms and creating gender norms accommodating solutions. So I'll just stop there and hand it back over to you. Okay.
Arisha, this is great. Thank you so much. I think these are all great points. I, you have summarized, the drivers of financial inclusion very well, and then what role female agents would play specifically um, for not just women customers, but also other set of customers uh, uh, quite nicely. I think um, that definitely I mean, we definitely have a lot of lessons on these lines from different contexts too. And I'm sure when Sasi will talk about his experience, he may have some stories to share around this nuance as well. Completely aligned on your point on data infrastructure. I think that is very critical. We have There are very few institutions which actually do gender disaggregated analysis of channel or customers and eventually use it in business strategies. We may have some of those in the panel today as well, so we'll hear about it from them too. But I'll now move to Arjun, and I'm just picking the thread that I began with Arisha on criticality of female agents. And Arjun, I know BMGF, there's a lot of large-scale digital programs on gender equality, livelihoods, agriculture, etc. How have female agents or females at the last mile, because maybe they're not called agents in every context, how have they impacted your work, and what worked for your programs if you wanted to have more females at the last mile delivering a service?
Yeah. So thanks, Akhand, and thanks for inviting me to this panel. I think it's a particularly relevant panel given where Bangladesh is in the sort of digital adoption journey. I'm particularly privileged to be here. Bangladesh also happens to be my social body, so it's particularly nice to be able to share some of these insights here. So you're right, in terms of digital programs, and I'll take a bit of a step back away from financial services, do a bit of a cross-cutting approach. We tend to see agent-based delivery as one delivery channel altogether for almost any digital program, just given the fragmented nature of connectivity, the sort of variable nature of availability of devices, level of agency that the user has on their own device. That's fairly variable, particularly in South Asia. I personally tend to be a little hesitant to design programs purely based on mobile operator reported or telco provider reported usage or subscription statistics, simply because again, a South Asian phenomenon, also a largely LMIC phenomenon. You see a lot of scenarios where people buy devices for somebody else, buy subscriptions for somebody else, subscriptions are shared, accounts are shared. The notion of personal space is very different. And so user scenarios can be fairly diverse. So we don't assume that the statistics as they stand from a provider perspective may necessarily hold true from a usage perspective. Something important to keep in mind. And in this context, it becomes particularly important to consider the role of who the agent is within their community, and their gender plays a big role. At least from our experience with programs across the board, we find that women agents tend to deliver higher quality services, be more committed to their consumer bases. There's a different social network that operates around women agents. Just again, simply because of historical gender norms prevalent in South Asian society, women are seen as part of somebody's family, part of a network, belonging to so and so community. And so that tends to bring a sense of trust as well, particularly for women users who are interacting with these agents. Now, coming to financial services in particular, this becomes all the more interesting because, at least in India, we also see the phenomenon of collectives. It's a very fairly institutionalized phenomenon of self-help groups supported by various line ministries. There we find that the role of the collective becomes fairly important in shaping digital journeys, not just for women who are part of those collectives, but also members of the household, including men. The way they will view women's agency with regard to digital will look different. All of those things start to change. And so having just one agent associated with a collective can very often mean that everybody associated with the collective now is suddenly more digitally, financially aware, literate, and engaging more with the system. So those are some of the sort of very immediate, obvious benefits. I think associated couple of challenges as well. And this is more of an implementation design situation to my mind, where we see that there's over promotion of the agent model, pushing of devices, things like that, which then means that you end up with oversaturation of agents in a particular location, and then the incomes per agent start dropping, which then leads to reputational damage and all of those kind of downstream effects. So I think important learning would be to rate plan your rollout so that you make sure that the agents reach saturation of incomes and there's legitimate need for additional agents at a particular level. And if it's well monitored and engaged with, it can often be a fairly rewarding process, and you actually get repeat customers, repeat usage, more adoption. So I think those are some initial thoughts. I'll pause there.
Great, Arjun. Thank you so much. I think your point on using subscribers, not using subscriber data per se, is actually a very interesting one. In our work, we have found that a lot of times accounts are opened, but someone else is actually using it. We call them proxy account users, and because of norms, and of course we are aware of at least the norms in South Asian context, a lot of time these proxy account holders are women because somebody got pushed them to open an account because of one reason or another. But the male folk of the household, they are sort of using it either specialized deposits or similar products. So I think that's a very valid point too. Thank you, and I'll get back to you with more questions in round two. I'll now move to Momen Bhai. You have very recently launched a very successful agent network in the country. How would you describe female agents in your network? And what strategies have worked for you in recruiting and retaining female agents? And of course, we would love to hear the challenges and how you overcome those.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me here. And actually, I was listening to what our deputy governors has said and all other discussion from CGAP and BMGF has said. Actually, it all resonates to our experience of female agents. We currently have now 75 female agents, and we call them Tara agents. Tara means star in our language, and I'm sure that's the same in Hindi. So we refer them as our star agents, and 30% of the employment are are female in this agent network. So my experience is like we have discussed about the social norms or gender norms. So that is also persistent in our country very much. And the more you go into the rural areas, it's even more. So the main challenges that we have faced while actually promoting female agents is like if we have the same facilities that we give to all the agents, then the female agents won't flourish. And thanks to BMGF, we are actually having a program running now with with the BMGF Grant Fund, where we are giving something extra to promote female agents. And in the process, we have branded the female agent outlets in a completely different branding. We are providing the initial branding costs for the female agents by this grant fund of BMGF. And also, so this intervention have suddenly give an increase in the female agents that we see. And I think similar experience we have because, in our central bank, we have special interest rates for when we finance loans to women. We call it refinancing schemes. And there we give loans at a very special rate. And this has enabled women to be included in the business. So that goes to actually handle the first challenge, getting the woman to open an agent. So this is a big norm in our society, and we have broken it. If you can see that we already have 75 female agents, though the number is pretty low, but it's only 8%. But considering other agents or the total number of agents in Bangladesh, the number is less than 3%, whereas we have more than 8% through this intervention. So now, if you tell me the experiences, it's like I go to agent outlet openings across the country, and wherever I go and see a male agent opening an outlet, I see 4 or 5 females attending, and rest like 80 or 90% are male. Whereas in this women-led agent outlets, we have opened 8 altogether in one day and connected others on the Zoom. And particularly on that program, I have seen more than 50% of the attendees who opened the account and also attended the event are female. So that is how the needle is being pushed. And as it rightly said, that the women agents handle customers much better, specifically the vulnerable ones, the elderly people. And also we have noticed in the female agent outlets, more female accounts are being opened because as the presentation was showing that everything is skewed towards male, starting from usage of app, usage of mobile phones and all that. Similar thing happens in banking also. Like when there is a male agent, females won't go there and open account. But when there is a female agent, we see a lot of female accounts being opened. And so we also do a lot of work in gender sensitization at all the female outlets. And we also do a lot of capacity building programs, especially for females, because males, or most of the male agents do have some sort of business experience, and this agent that they have taken is one of the initiatives that we have taken so far. Whereas when it comes to female agents, most of them in the previous time were housewives. So we have to give them financial literacy as well as banking knowledge and all that. So, our experience is that the female agents particularly are doing good. And it's too early to tell, but what we have seen, the average balances of accounts open in a female led agent outlet is higher than the agents that are run by male. So I'll stop there. Probably we will talk later more. Thank you.
I think, Mohan bhai, you have ended with the most interesting aspect of this entire conversation. There are higher account balances in the accounts which are opened by females, which clearly show that there is a um, business case for the providers. I mean, of course, I hope we'll get more time to talk about it and understand it better. But I'll quickly move to Sasidhar. He has I think similar experience in India, and I am aware that Sabke has done some pretty interesting, um, achieved some pretty interesting milestones as well. So, Saziha, what has been your experience of working with female agents, and what sort of changes did you make in your strategy or operations to onboard female agents? And you could talk about both urban and rural areas.
Great, thank you. So speaking at the end makes it easy because most of the things that I wanted to say have been more or less covered. So I can't agree more to all the speakers, starting from the Honorable Deputy Governor. So very specifically from a practitioner's perspective, so we took a couple of approaches to this problem. One is, as leadership, we were very clear that unless we have a certain percentage of agents as women, we probably are losing out on a market share. So I think that's a very clear business definition or business need that we are trying to serve. So it's not a do good, feel good factor. It's a clear business case that if you don't have female agents, you don't have female customers, or at least you don't have adequate female customers. So we want to solve that problem, right? Very clearly. So now, how do you go ahead and onboard these female agents? There's one way to do is to go bring a female entrepreneur and start signing them up, which is all of us have been trying, and that happens to be in small percentages, right? Given the nature of work, the kind of outlets that you need to have on the street fronts and stuff like that, it's not common in the context that we operate that we have an exclusive female agent always being able to serve. So the approach that we took is we said, when we talk about female, we actually think of a household. When you talk of a male, we talk of a male. There is this social construct that female is always a part and parcel of the household. So we said, okay, so now we have all these male agents, right? What does this male agent do in a day routine, right? So male agents are male entrepreneurs. They're shopkeepers. They are people who are usually in the shop front. And they also do a lot of things outside of their shop. Right? They're not always sitting in the shop. So they're going and buying the stuff. They're going and collecting their dues. They're going and meeting their customers outside of the shop front. So we wonder who runs the shop in the absence of the male agent. It's typically the wife or the family member, and typically female family members who are usually more stable, right? They stay put during the busy hours when the male counterparts are required to go out and fetch things from outside. Then we said, why don't we sign up the female member of the family as a sub-agent or a co-agent? So now we have both of them operating together, operating at different points of time. And usually you have a male footfall during the early mornings and late evenings, and female footfalls during the low hours, because most of the female operate within the vicinity of their households. Even if they're economically active, they're usually economically active within a vicinity. So they walk into an outlet when there is less crowd, right? And that is when the female agent is, there in front of the shop. So we tried to map it based on the local social behaviors. And we said, why not have a female as a second agent? And some banks have the ability to actually sign up as a second agent, which in fact then opened this outlet for longer hours. It now permitted two people to operate instead of one. So there are two employments in the same household. The income levels automatically goes up. So as a result, the business has started going up, and where we have signed up a female agent as an individual or as a second agent, the business productivity has shown a significant jump. And we all know, we all talked about how well they serve, how the quality of the services, how sensitive they are, and those things are the icing on the cake. So that is one very important learning that we got, that it doesn't have to be exclusive, it can be inclusive. And that kind of helped a lot. The other important thing that we also noticed is that the more cashless the economy, the more it will be easier for women to come into the economic system. That's not because they don't like cash. That's because if you're talking about agent network, the cash management is a large part of the agent job, right? Moving from an agent outlet to the bank to deposit or withdraw money, so that they act as a conversion points for the customers where the cash is deposited or withdrawn. So the more the economy is cashless, or you make the outlet cash neutral, then you can actually sell the services more to women agents, who then become a part of the system. How do you make it cashless? So of course, we talked about the stack, the India stack, the Bangladesh stack. See, these DPI infrastructure is anyway helping all of us to do P2P online transactions. If we can have agents actually educate their customers to transact digitally, rather than making customers depend on agents for cash conversion, whether they want it or not. Half of the job of the agent is actually transferred to the customer. But mind you, you should always map those customers to the agent, not actually disconnect or de-link them, so that the agent continues to get the benefit of every transaction a customer does on their own app, because it's the agent who is actually onboarded the customer. And whenever a customer needs assistance, they walk into the outlet and take the service. So now the agent is transformed into a conversion point, cash conversion point to a service point, right? Now they have converted their customers into digital customers, but they're actually operating as, customer service points, where customer walks in and say, hey, you know what, I can't transfer, hey, my app is not working, or my phone is, logging off, whatever that might be, which is a much better service and a much softer service that you can have your female agents to. So I think, and then cash neutrality is also important. So this cash comes in, cash goes out. So if you can manage and help the agent manage their money in such a way that the cash in and cash outs are balanced, right? That also helps the female agent to actually stay put and not really, be too mobile about their operation. So I think some of these operational nuances as a help, us to sign up a lot more customers, so a lot more agents, and then of course the business benefits of it have been talked. So I'll just stop there. These are two key operational, or I would say business imperatives that we have adopted in our system, which marginally helped us to get to one notch better than we usually otherwise were.
Thank you, Sasi. I mean, this could not have come from any other practitioner. Specifically, this point that you had both the male and the female of the household working as unique or distinct agents is very interesting one. In our work with women entrepreneurs, we have learned that long business hours sometimes become tricky for them, and at some point in time, we were also recommending that if providers have to work with females as a last mile delivery channel, why can't change? Why can't you change the requirements? Maybe it's not a full day job they are looking at, but definitely a 4 to 5 hour job. So this is really reassuring to hear it. But I won't take much time just summarizing, because I know there is an interesting round coming up. So we were talking about female agents and how we can onboard more female agents in this round one. The round two is more about role of technologies in developing or supporting female agents. And to see your point on DPI could also, I mean, you could expand a bit on about that in the second round too. And I won't keep you the last one too in the second round. uh, a request to all the audience, please post your questions on chat, and we will pick it up from there. So round two, I'll begin with Arisha. In this global context, and of course, we have heard from Momin Bhai and Sasidhar as well, also from the DG sir, also on how they are looking at agent networks. Um, what is what are ways where technological innovations could support women's financial inclusion better? And you could touch upon female agents too, but beyond female agents as well, specifically the role of technology and platforms like uh, digital public infrastructures.
Great, thank you. And I will keep this as a mix of questions on delivery or technologies that focus on delivery, but also on innovation at the product level. So I wanted to talk about three examples or three innovations largely that could promote and have been promoting women's financial inclusion. The first is on digital banking, but a tech plus touch approach to digital banking. And an example that really stands out is the example of Time Bank in South Africa, which has around 2 years ago, they had about 6 million customers and half of them were women. And these were lower income customers, low to middle income. And what Time Bank did was has been create a digital bank, but also has created a delivery channel through everyday settings, like grocery stores, where customers can walk up to a kiosk and open a bank account. And this is an assisted delivery model where Time Bank deploys ambassadors, a lot of whom are females, that help the customers in opening these accounts. And they walk them through the steps of opening an account. But they're also just there to answer questions in case customers have any follow-up questions. And they are spread across their large network of grocery stores. And as a result, they've been able to attract half their customers as women. Which is a pretty big success story, and it is a great example because they've gone away from using words like agents, but their ambassadors largely serve the role of agents, but they also provide them more education on accessing bank accounts. So that tech plus touch digital banking is one interesting innovation. The other is it's been going on for a while, is on digitizing cash transfers or digitizing wage payments. Bangladesh has done it really well. Another example that stands out is the Pakistan cash transfer program known as the Benazir Income Support Program. And of course, there are challenges with that program, but they have tried to digitize and disburse benefits through smart cards, through mobile phones, but also debit cards. And the results are pretty promising in several cases. So over 180,000 beneficiaries are using the smart card mechanism. Around 5.5 million beneficiaries, who are all women, have opened level 0 branchless accounts, which is a positive indicator of financial inclusion. Of course, there are challenges like, and Arjun mentioned this, that women do not have their own mobile handsets. They have difficulties in accessing ATMs because they're not able to punch in the PIN codes accurately. So there are issues with this approach, but those are issues that are solvable. And it does help. These digitizing programs help reach women at scale. And finally, I'll talk about a critical element of digital public infrastructure, data sharing, and particularly on open finance. So a lot of countries now, and the general framing around digital public infrastructure includes the open finance scheme, which is a data sharing scheme, between financial institutions. And we've come up with an initial hypothesis, and we're also seeing evidence at CGAP that open finance has the promise to reach lower income individuals through financial services, particularly credit, because it is solving the informational asymmetry problem that financial institutions face. While open finance does require customers to have accounts, it does help in the sharing of information across accounts, and helps, say, larger banks to access information that's sitting with smaller financial institutions. And as a result, helps women get more credit. Also, women and men. And in India, we're seeing promising results. India and Brazil are the only two emerging economies that have implemented it successfully. And about 64 million accounts have been linked in India through their version of open finance, which is the account aggregator ecosystem. And while we've done a survey that suggests that there are gender differences in awareness and use of open finance, where women lack more awareness than men do. In general, awareness is low amongst both men and women. And for women's financial inclusion in particular, and for open finance to really deliver for women, we do want to start thinking about ways in which we can correct for the digital divide that women face, the gender-based digital divide, and think of assisted agent models that could be used to deliver services and help women access open finance. And one of the prerequisites for being on open finance is to have a smartphone. So it's not like there would be a model. It won't be like a traditional agent model where an agent can help you access credit. But there could be an assisted approach that could help correct for any of those digital divide issues. So I'll stop here, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the rest of the panelists.
Thank you, Arisha. I think this entire conversation on open finance is an interesting one, and I'll wait for until the end to give more observations or reactions to it. I'll turn to Mr. Habibur. You touched upon this Bangladesh Bank's vision on smart Bangladesh while you were deliberating about a payment system digitization early on. It's a recent initiative, and on top of it, you have also launched a women's financial inclusion dashboard. And I'm bringing these up because I want to understand that from a regulator's perspective, what enables use of such digital infrastructures. You will have, Binima, you have such dashboards. And when the central bank launches such initiatives, what is the expectation from private sector on using these initiatives?
Thank you, Akhand. I think you mentioned a very important issue that what are the elements that we need to provide to help women part of the population to advance. You know, you can say the dashboard, the technology, the infrastructure is there. So why then men versus women? Men are falling behind. I think three elements are very important here, which is should be target oriented. One is like 3E, I would say: employ, educate, and empowers. Employ means you are giving them opportunity to income generating activities. That income generating activities could be facilitated through providing enough access to credit, providing access to finance, and also providing access to technology as well as, okay? And educate them. Actually, if there is technology, you need to educate them how to use it. You need to actually make them understand how easy it is and how quickly they can access all those facilities. And at the same time, empowering is another element that need to be addressed to the women-centric activities. Empowering means, in the country like Bangladesh, we have seen that the allocated amount for women entrepreneurship loan, we see that most of the bank fail to actually fulfill the target. One of the reason is that they don't find actually qualified or the eligible women to get it. What are the obstacles? Obstacles is that they might not have any any collateral to put, or they might not be head of the family to provide actually personal guarantee kind of things. The infrastructure, the technological to take part or to advance their financial access or their financial inclusion activity for the women. So likewise, the recent dashboard plus our women dedicated desk in the bank. Also, I came to notice that I think Bragg Bank has initiated one all women employee branch. I think this kind of initiative will actually allow the lagging behind part of the population, that is women, to access those financial access points and to use the technology to able to make them income generating activity part of the economy. So education and
is it just me?
No, we lost him.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can't hear him.
Yeah. I think we will move to the next panelist. Also, looking at the time, organizers will be on my back soon. Right now, they have given me some leeway. So very quickly, I'll move to Sathi. What nudges service providers to use technology? You talked about how digital payment infrastructure helped you onboard more female agents. But was the motivation higher for more female agents, or were there other nudges? And very critical, and this would also sort of touch into what one of our participant has asked us, Mr. Abdullah. He's asking, um, if how providers can be gender sensitive. My version of the question was, do women agents need specific efforts from providers, and if there are any myths that you would like to burst for us?
Well, let me start with the last one. So I think all of us talked about the gender stereotypes that we all live in. So I think there's a lot of unfounded presumptions that we all operate in, thinking that women can't do this, men can do this. I think those are stereotypes that we all are conditioned with, right? So there are some real roadblocks or cultural barriers, if you want to put it that way, but there are some assumed barriers as well, right? So one thing is, we of course have established in, let's say, in microfinance industry, that women are probably more bankable than men, right? So that's why today no microfinance institution would like to lend to men the same format as they usually lend to women, right? The whole JLG and self-help group models that have evolved all across the world is all on the back of the trust that we have built on the women's bankabilities at the base of the pyramid. So the largest probably women empowerment program that we see is the microfinance program in financial services. So I think so that way the myths have been busted in many ways. Then one, that we don't need to assume that the women are more riskier, women can't manage an enterprise, women can't manage cash. I think these are all addressed to a large extent, for decades now, and Bangladesh probably takes the credit of probably leading the way on that. So I think that the more is on the leadership, the mindsets that we carry with us in terms of what we think that is doable. So what we essentially did is, of course, we come from microfinance backgrounds. We have not had any such baggages to begin with that women are to be trusted with money or not. That's not the problem that we ever had. The problem that we wanted to actually address was the question that were raised, smartphone ownerships, the whole the digital awareness part of it, trust aspect of it. I think these are the softer things, and to an extent harder as well, because the phone ownership and all these things are a challenge. So what we took on both on the side of the lending and also on the liabilities or the payment side, we used our internal task force, the field staff that are supposed to sign up agents or sign up customers. I think those are our real change agents, right? Those are the people who are used to doing things in a certain way. Even if it is a loan officer who is, quote unquote, an agent for us, or an agent sitting in an outlet. So these two are used to doing things in a certain way. Now we redesigned our whole incentive system in such a way that if a agent enables a customer on a digital platform and let the customer operate the device themselves, right? The device may be owned by a family member, but it can be borrowed by a female customer, and they can operate it for a certain time. If they ensure that the customer actually uses the digital financial service, the agent gets double the incentive than they would have otherwise done it on a cash mode. So we are trying to encourage our agents to be that service points where they become not only a cash conversion point, they're actually becoming digital transformation points for the customers. So here they're also easing themselves out of actually managing the whole cash part of it and dealing with the physicality of it. They're dealing with the customer in a more softer way, and in fact benefiting more. And because if a customer transacts digitally, the company saves money because I don't need to have cash management cost, right? Then I can transfer that back to my agent, who is now enabling the whole ecosystem also to go digital, right? Now, this is something that we very deliberately do even today. My agent who handles loans, if their EMIs are paid by the customer digitally, that agent gets double the incentive than what the agent has to go and collect money from the customer. So they spend more time, more fuel, they manage cash, and they get paid less. Vis-a-vis, they do nothing. They just educate their customer to manage their own digital infrastructure, which is the DPI, where that plays a big role there, is where the agent also gets paid more. Why do I do that? As I said, my ROIs are much better on a digital, financial services than a physical management of cash. So here the DPI helps me, enable a customer to go digital, not just the agent be there for all the purposes that customer wants, right? The whole eKYC has enabled the bank account opening, more instantly. The trust came in. The customers are happy to actually use their, thumb or their iris or their face recognition softwares to get the service done quickly. Passbooks are being printed immediately. The account is seeded with phone numbers instantly. So there's a lot of trust that has got built with the DPI coming in. And the payment systems on the top of it has helped customers transact on their own, and agents becoming the facilitators who now get paid more than less. So I think this whole thing that we look at it from a business perspective makes a lot of sense. So hence we think, it is basically the way you design your business, your program, than, going with the traditional methods of doing business, where you need to have a person all the time to help somebody else, rather than enable customers to do their own thing, while agent becomes a service point, not necessarily a transaction point. So I think that transition is what we should be prepared for as DPI becomes more and more available and payment infrastructure becomes more and more pervasive. So that's how we see it from a practitioner's perspective.
Thanks, Sathi. Sorry, I may not be visible because the power has just gone out, but I'll really ask the next round of question and then I'll sort out the light part. So, Momin bhai, I wanted to ask you how you have been using the DPIs in the country, for example, the Parichai platform, and in your bank, how has the DPIs influenced various sectors that you also focus on, agri, or systems like business verifications? Arisha talked about open banking. Have you been also thinking on the lines of using open banking?
Yeah, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes.
So, in terms of we have seen from Mitul's presentation, which shows the Bangla stack, and we have, unlike India, we have cracked the code of, say, the NID, and that database is there, which is the Porichoy that you have mentioned, and this has given us a significant push in onboarding our customers, be it male or female. But and in the presentation you have seen, and we have also seen the efficiency gain. But this is still, in our country, is still restricted to individual accounts. Business accounts we still cannot open through using eKYC. So we are closely working with the central bank, and we are trying to sort it out. The only thing that is holding us back is, the main thing about a business is the trade license or the existence of the business. That part is not digitized. So if we can marry that to, then only we can open business accounts using eKYC. So still on a business account onboarding, we are facing challenges there. And with regards to opening individual accounts, yes, just over last 1 year, our over-the-counter transactions have reduced from 85% to now, I think, 20%, because rest all the onboarding tasks are now happening through eKYC. 95% of the accounts open from agent outlets are all using eKYC. So that is a great platform. But the main hurdle is, like, unlike India, our one is only the national ID verification, and it's not linked to a phone number. So I think there I would highlight on the data exchange part, because we have to have enabling policy support to ensure data privacy as well as data sharing. In Bangladesh, that is a major roadblock, I think, and the government is on the journey to smart Bangladesh. Government is trying to build that bridge and enable more data exchange, but also from the central bank perspective, because our central bank is the main driver of the banking sector. But so. On using the NID platform, central bank has done various platforms or building various platforms on top of it, and these are enormously helping us, like the Bangladesh automated check processing system, then the BEFTN, then also the national payment switch. Then for large volume transactions we have RTGS. But the thing is, yes, so this has helped us, like the bank, to design our app and give our customers the facility to actually do all kind of transactions digitally, and this has moved that needle quite well. But as I will emphasize more on data sharing, and once we do that, we can actually get more benefit out of this DPI. Say, for example, for land verification, if everything is digitized, then processing a loan will be much easier. If the business entity have a database, and if that is linked to the national ID, then processing a business loan would have been much easier. So if I have a agri data platform, then we can also provide agri loans much faster. So I think in terms of DPI, the other layers in the Bangla stack, the basic layer is there, but we need to work more on the other layers. And once we do that, And once we work on a data exchange policy and do that data exchange amongst banks, amongst MFIs, amongst the mobile companies, then only we can fetch the full benefit out of this DPI infrastructure. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Momin Bhai. A couple of points. We'll have a couple of questions more. There are some questions on the chat. There is one on how we financial institution can address gender biases, and there is one specific question to Sasi on how you helped educate rural women customers. So if you may want to use this time to respond to them, otherwise we'll try and get some more time on the Q&A. I'll move to Arjun, and it's a slightly high level question, but I think you are most well positioned to answer this. So how do we ensure long-term sustainability of these DPIs? Both Sasi and Momin Bhai talked about how they have been using it, how they would use it more if there are more functionalities. And while we're talking about long-term sustainability, the concern or the challenge would be to keep them gender sensitive. That's where most of the times we miss the bus, I guess. So what's your view on how the government and the private sector could sustain it, also be more gender sensitive around creating such DPIs?
Yeah, I think there's no straight answer to that question, right? Because on the one side, the cost numbers kind of justify themselves. I think Mitul made that point with the single slide on the cost of operating a DPI like Aadhaar versus the savings it generates. I think those are the ROI TCO questions are sort of self-answered for the most part. I think sustainability is also, and more importantly, a question of adoption and then continued usage. Unless that is clear and visible, and I mean, those are not numbers you can make up. Right? In large countries like India, Bangladesh, other parts of South Asia, it's very hard to make up the kind of numbers in usage that come along with the DPI. So I think that's a good place to peg the thinking around. And then looking at what actually boosts adoption. At the end of the day, like most public services, DPI is not perfect on the day it gets launched. There are always limitations. There will always be limitations. Again, when you're dealing with large populations, basic services, the comparison should ideally be made with the previous baseline versus the best possible future state that you could have, right? I mean, there's always multiple ways of looking at things. The question really is, do you have the lengths of lines in front of physical service kiosks reduced? Have people found it easier to do things without leaving their homes? I would recommend having more time and motion studies around actually looking at what productivity increases people have had as a result of DPI. Case in point, take the example of just a SIM card associated with an Aadhaar number. I lose a SIM card, I can walk into a telco provider's office, get it replaced with a biometric authentication, even during a SIM card shortage, where I have to call the manager and potentially pull a little bit of weight over there. The question then becomes, have we made this workflow usable by all parts of society? So I think the initial push is always about just getting more people onboarded. But then how do you retain people with better quality of service is really the question. And there is where the gender sensitivity and the inclusivity questions start to play a much more important role. Is it equally easy for a woman to get her ID details sorted out as it is for a man? Is the agent who's going to receive those details equally sensitive to women customers as they are to men customers? This is a matter of user training. It's also a matter of thinking through how your endpoints are designed. Do they allow for easy access by women during hours that are appropriate for women to be able to access them in the particular social context that they're in? These are, I mean, if it requires a 4-hour bus journey to go and get your ID name change because of a spelling mistake and that's beating your KYC on multiple attempts, you're really killing the point of having a digital system that solves a basic problem. So I think those are the kind of questions that we are now starting to explore, at least from an Indian point of view. The question I'd asked earlier on the email, that if I'm paying, say, a cab driver in Delhi who's a man on a QR code that's on his phone, and the money is going to a woman's account in Bihar, which might be his partner. How do I disaggregate this transaction? How do I measure agency in this transaction? I think there, Shashi pointed out to a nice example of where they've observed a particular behavior. They've seen that, oh, we have women using the same ID. Could we potentially have a sub ID that helps us disaggregate this usage and see what the service differentials are? I think that's the kind of thinking that DPI really enables. It allows you to go beyond the device, beyond the provider, and really engage with the individual basis their identity. And once you start really appreciating the value of that, the questions of sustainability, inclusivity, gender intentionality start to get answered over there itself.
Thank you, Arjun. I think no one would have described it so nicely. And I'm 100% on board. I guess all of the panelists would be on the fact that whenever we are thinking of a service, let's not just think users, let's think both men and women, because it may really differ for both of them. I understand Mr. Habibur is back and he was talking about how they are looking at Smart Bangladesh and Women's Financial Inclusion Dashboard. So I'm just adding a question from the audience for you, Mr. Habibur. We have the Women's Financial Inclusion Dashboard. It's a great initiative. Bangladesh Bank is looking at Smart Bangladesh, and of course the pathway, right now charting the pathway, and eventually we'll try and see how this vision is achieved. How are you setting targets for it? What is that you are pushing, let's say, all the players in the ecosystem to achieve with both the Smart Bangladesh agenda and with infrastructures like dashboards? If there is one thing that you would like to change in how providers and practitioners are using all of these DPIs, what that would be?
Thank you. I think I was hearing all these interventions by the other panelists. It's very interesting, actually. It's also learning as well. The dashboard, the way it will be helping us, actually, it will help us to collect gender-specific data, particularly for the women. It could be on actually by area, also by age. So by knowing these data, helping us identify the barriers that women face, and actually who are the actually not coming to the network and why they are not coming. Also, by tracking the key matrices, the dashboard allow us stakeholders to monitor our policy effectiveness, also to frame our policy the way they are actually addressing the particular area or particular age group of the women. So dashboard actually providing us basic information that we need to frame our policy. Okay, so yeah, I'm having some problem here. So let me see.
No, nobody is. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So the policymakers can use insights from the dashboard to design, as I mentioning, that the implement policies directly address the identified barriers. For example, if you create, for example, they can create more women-friendly financial products, and also tailor the financial literacy program, what need to be done and how it to be done to actually incorporate all these missing part of the women. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So there is this question for Sasidhar, but I think I will ask all the panelists if they would like to answer this. Um, Arisha from her experience and Momin Bhai also from his experience. The question is how we educate women in rural areas to make digital transactions or use digital financial services. Uh, while we know that some of them may not know how to use smartphones, although I think Sasi did talk about how agents are also incentivized, so they become first layer of teachers too. But I'll not add my knowledge here. It's a
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
So yeah. So from my experience, our Bragg Bank experience, that intervention or the knowledge building, as I said at the beginning, is mandatory if you want to actually really want the woman agent or woman-led agent to be successful. And this is not only the on the agent side, we have also seen the similar things while financing women entrepreneurs. And we have to give that extra push to really get women included in the entire financial system. And but this cannot be like from my experience, this cannot be a one-time intervention. Like you just bring a bunch of women, give them a training, and then stop there. Like I will share the experience that we do for the women entrepreneurs. What we do, we have education partners like the leading universities of the countries so we have designed a 3-month long women entrepreneurship development program. Here we identify the all the entrepreneurs in Bangladesh are open to apply, and then we sit with them, we interview them, and then find out the real entrepreneurs, and then put them on to this 3-month long training course. At the end of the training course, we arrange a fair, including all the ones who have attended the training program, and then we give loans to each one of them. And then the follow-up goes on. So this is how you actually really make an impact, because if you just do a training and think that it's done, the work is not done there. It's just the beginning. So I'll just wanted to share that experience.
Let me just add one or two things. Like we figured out very early in time that daughters are the best educators of mothers. So in families where there are young daughters, we first train them, not the customers directly, right? And then we nudge them to help their moms. That is one very effective tool that we ended up figuring out. The second, the community is a good teacher for especially the women, because women usually operate in communities. They operate in groups. Since we operate in joint liability groups, we generally identify one of the 5 women who actually can operate a phone, and then she becomes the leading trainer out there. The third very important aspect that we adopt is a very simple UI is the mantra. You have to have a very simple user interface and no clutter, nothing. Just create an interface that makes it very easy for someone to understand what it is, click a couple of buttons, get your work done. So I think that's another design part of it, which we have with a lot of iterations incorporated it, which helped again a majority of women adopt to it. So these are some of the design thinking aspects that we have also brought in, apart from, of course, all the trainings and everything that goes along with it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sasi and Momin Bhai. So with this, I would close the panel discussion. I really thank all of you for giving uh, your sharing your experiences, and also um, the examples that you shared. I'm definitely taking away a few quotes. and also examples that I would use in future. And I'll come back to you maybe for some of those. Thanks again, everybody, for your time. Since we have eaten time closure, vote of thanks time as well. So I've been given responsibility to close the overall session. As far as Sathi program is concerned, along with A2I, MSc will continue to expand it. We are looking at possibility of expanding it to the Union Parishad level from the current Upazila level where currently the Sathis are. With that, thank you so much, everybody. Good evening, good night, and good morning to all of you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Akant. Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you guys here. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.